Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Research Clusters Town Hall. This town hall will be recorded in case you missed something. I know there's some people who are teaching right now would like to see this later, so it will be recorded and available. We'll put it on the ORED website, and I'll let people know where to find this. But welcome. The format of this town hall essentially is I'll do some welcoming remarks after I'm done sort of telling you how this is all going to work. The chancellor will talk about research on campus and the research clusters. Ken Sylvester, the director of the Office of Research, will discuss interdisciplinary research efforts in areas of publication on campus. Then I'm going to introduce each research cluster leader in turn, and they'll talk about the research cluster, their plans with their member faculty, and the internal support they're receiving. And then once all the research cluster leaders have spoken about their cluster, there's 4 of them in total, right? Then we'll take your questions. And you can feel free to put questions in the chat if you like, or at the end, after everybody's done speaking, we will allow you to unmute and ask the questions verbally if you choose, okay? So the research clusters were brought about to encourage interdisciplinary efforts, and the research cluster themes were chosen for the most part to help support campus initiatives, such as, for example, collaboration with the Center on Aging on campus in the case of the Aging Cluster. In the case of the Arts and Culture Cluster, it's a collaboration with the Flint Hugh Theater, the Flint Institute of Arts, the Sloan Museum, the Flint Institute of Music, the Flint Public Library, and lots of different arts organizations. In the case of the Racial, Economic, and Environmental Justice Cluster, it's to aid in the launching of the Urban Institute and be sort of a complementary piece to that. And in the case of the Urban Sustainability and Environmental Health Research Cluster, this research theme was chosen because we have a critical mass of faculty in this research area, and there's a lot of opportunity and need for scholarship like this in Flint and Detroit. So we really hope that you see yourself in one of these clusters and contact the appropriate research cluster leader to discuss joining, and we'll provide you with information on how to get a hold of all of them, right? So I'm now going to ask Chancellor Dutta to speak about his support for research on our campus. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Heather. And let me add my welcome to all attendees this afternoon. As Heather mentioned, this research cluster town hall, I believe, is the first one of its kind, but for sure it won't be the last one. We will try to organize at least once a semester, if not more, and it need not be in the same format. This time around, the plan was to have all 4 research leaders speak about the clusters, but in the future, we might want to do 1 or 2 at a town hall to give you more details. It is very important, I think, for us, a regional public university, to engage in appropriate research, applied research, and community engaged research, for a variety of reasons. And I know there are several faculty here on this campus who are very engaged in research, and several more who are looking for opportunities to get engaged and increase their research profile. So as I have said in previous town halls, and you might have heard from your deans, the University of Michigan Flint primarily has 2 sources of revenue. At this point, they are student tuition and state appropriation. However, let us recognize that there are 3 additional sources of revenue. One is research, one is tech transfer, and the other is philanthropy. So I think we ought to expand our efforts in these new areas. And it was with that intent that we created this new Office of Research and Economic Development, that Heather is leading. In that, we have the Office of Research with Ken and his team, and the economic development and corporate relations with Paul Annas and Sarah Barton. So this unit brings together opportunities for applied research, basic research, research with industry partners, research and economic development opportunities. So and it has made in a short time. It's less than a year that this office has been in existence. Um, it has and it is making a difference. And I think I'd just also like to say that the benefits of this campus doing more research accrue in several very important areas. First, for our students, we are in the 21st century. The creation of research opportunities for students is something very important for us, not only to attract new students, undergraduate transfers, and graduate students, but I would say more importantly, to retain the students. The more students are engaged in intellectual activities or community based activities with our faculty, the better they are engaged with the university, their programs, they see the excitement, they feel the excitement, they're part of something much bigger than themselves, attending classes and doing projects. So it is going to make a big difference. And these things will happen over time, but we should make sure that our undergraduate students and graduate students get ample opportunities. And you have heard this by emails and from Heather and Ken. With the new funds that we have received from Ann Arbor, we have a good chunk of money to provide to graduate students, to undergraduate students. So it's a great opportunity for faculty to mentor undergraduate students and graduate students, get them involved in their research project. Uh, Maybe it's a seed project that through work in the summer or in one semester could develop into a bigger proposal. So I see the benefits to our students, very important. Also, um, the benefits to our faculty. I mean, you will get, if you compete, you will get external grants. There are many external agencies that we can compete for. It's not only the National Science Foundation. Across the spectrum, we have opportunities for federal and state grants. We have opportunities for corporate foundation grants. And every time you have a new administration in Washington, D.C., their priorities will open up for some faculty areas of research that they can then compete for. And the more we bring in external grants, the better it is for the university because it is opening up a new line of revenue or new source of revenue uh, on which we can support some faculty time, some staff time, and students, of course. So that's a big thing that we need to be thinking about. And thirdly, doing or engaging in research and having a robust program actually will help in the fundraising. So the philanthropy is usually um, tied to some project. You talk about Alzheimer's, you talk about water, you talk about aging and dementia. These are all areas. You talk about sustainability, environment, climate change, you talk about technology. So the the fundraising efforts that we are going to expand significantly will be aided by good research projects on campus and clusters of faculty engaged in it. So we would be able to attract our alums and foundations to give us more funds. You know, So I just want to make sure that I don't appear all around money. That's not what it is about. It is about the intellectual vibrancy of this campus. There are many areas of research that will not get external funds. And I want to make sure that you understand that is also very important for us. And to the extent funding is required, some internal funds, I am making funds available from the Chancellor's office. Okay, so I just want everyone to understand that all kinds of research in the humanities, in arts, in in other areas, in management, where external funds might not be the norm, absolutely fine. We will find ways through indirect cost recovery of other grants, through other foundation grants, and the discretionary funds that actually, honestly, I'll be honest, is available in the Chancellor's office. I am repurposing all of those to fund faculty and students in their research effort. So it is something that is very important for our institution. It will help the reputation of our institution. It will help student recruiting, student retention. It will prepare our undergraduates much better to go to graduate programs. So let me stop here. I'm very happy to be a part of this effort. I know that the ORED leadership is doing wonderful, and I just want to be fully supportive. So back to you, Heather.
Thank you, Chancellor. And just so everybody is aware, the Chancellor will be here the whole time, and then we will be taking questions after everybody's done speaking. We'll look at the chat. We'll see if people want to unmute themselves to ask questions verbally, but he'll be available through the whole thing for research-related questions that you may have, as well as everybody else that you hear speaking today. So now I'm going to ask Ken Sylvester, the Director of the Office of Research, to speak about these interdisciplinary efforts on our campus. He gave me a slide to present, so I'm going to pull that up right now.
Okay, thank you, Heather. So I wanted to emphasize that as you've probably read, we have a new webpage that relates to the research clusters. You can go there and look at this. But the focus of this effort, as it is across a lot of higher education, is to mobilize shared strength, to build collaboration amongst the faculty. This has been, in some cases, fairly challenging because we are often focused on our own departments, our own colleges and schools. And it's been difficult to do kind of discovery across campus. And this new cluster effort is an attempt to really expand our knowledge about our colleagues and connect researchers around big challenges, to do more discovery on the needs of the community, the needs that are in industry that we can apply ourselves to, and to discover how to connect to funding agencies to really improve the scope for our research and scholarly activity. So the four clusters that were developed over the course of the last few months, and kudos to the research cluster leaders for stepping forward and agreeing to lead the effort to recruit faculty in each of these cases. The aging research cluster, led by Alain Goldberg, is focused on many aspects of aging, including physical, cognitive, psychological, and socioeconomic dimensions of aging in the Greater Flint region. The Arts and Culture cluster, led by Ben Gatos, is going to bring researchers and cultural institutions and community organizations together in collaborative partnership. As you know, there are very important arts and cultural institutions in Flint, and campus has always had connections to them, but there is scope for building even stronger partnerships. The Racial, Economic, and Justice, Environmental Justice cluster is going to work in conjunction with the new Urban Institute for Racial, Economic, and Environmental Justice, focusing on racial, economic, and environmental inequality. Especially in Flint, these are national issues, but Flint is obviously a city, a region where these issues are close at hand, and there's plenty of scope for faculty to come together to solve these really big issues, to work on understanding translational research methods, community-based research, and to think about solutions and interventions. And finally, the fourth cluster, urban sustainability and environmental health, focusing on all of these issues related to 21st century cities. That Flint was very much a harbinger of addressing these questions and overcoming the challenges of, in some cases, outdated 20th century civil infrastructure, and addressing questions of sustainability in the coming century. So connecting to communities and eventually thinking about the ways in which we can build more resilient ecosystems and connect those questions to public health. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Heather.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. So now it's essentially we're going to hear from all of our research cluster leaders at this point. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce Alon Goldberg. He is the leader of the aging cluster, and Alon is a professor and the associate research dean in the College of Health Sciences, excuse me. Alon?
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. I'll share my screen, right? Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. And this is a very exciting initiative, having the 4 research clusters together to talk about our various areas. So we're the ARC, or the Aging Research Cluster. And the Aging Research Cluster is essentially a group of faculty members at the university who, together with groups of students and our collaborators both within the university and outside of the institution, the University of Michigan-Flint, engage in research that is centered around aging-focused research, primarily with the goal of understanding physical, cognitive, psychological, and socioeconomic problems and the issues associated with aging in Flint, Genesee County, and beyond. But not only are we interested in understanding the problems, we're also interested in proposing innovative and feasible and workable solutions to those problems. Okay. At this point in time, the funding for the Aging Research Cluster is really through the Center on Aging. And it's important to understand that the Center of Aging and ARC, or the Aging Research Cluster, really are distinct but related entities. The Center on Aging was recently funded through a generous grant by the Ben F. Breyer Foundation. And we really had our first Center on Aging meeting on May the 28th in 2020, at which about 40 people, faculty members, as well as administrators, there were a number of senior administrators of the university at that initial meeting. And I was very encouraged that there was such a great interest in aging issues amongst the academic and administrative faculty of the university. The Center on Aging, I said, and ARC are really distinct but related entities. The Center on Aging is really broader than is the Aging Research Cluster, and it's worth just thinking about that for a minute. The Center on Aging activities are really centered with over 3 broad sort of topic areas or activity areas, or foci, for want of a better way of putting it. And these are to engage in faculty professional development and student education, and Breyer has funded us for each of these. And in that category area, there are seminars, symposia, workshops, and we'll talk more about some of these as we go through this brief slideshow. The second area within the Center on Aging is faculty and student research, and there's small grants competition, and there'll be more about that in my talk. And the third area is community outreach and engagement. In other words, Briar has provided funding for service learning and other activities. So this first year of the ARC is already being funded through the Center on Aging. So who are the personnel that are engaged in the Aging Research Cluster and the Center on Aging personnel? There are about 10, 12 of us listed over here, maybe a few more, representing all schools and colleges, as well as Office of Research. I'm not going to go through all of them, but from the Office of Research, we have Mary Auger and Ken Sylvester. We do have representation on the Center on Aging from all of the schools and colleges. The people who are listed in red over here are actually members of the steering committee of the Center on Aging. But I basically, for the purpose of this slide, just want to highlight some of the names. These are all of the names of the people who are involved in ARC and Center on Aging. So what are some of the topic areas? And my screen is actually being cut off, and I think the first one talks about healthcare utilization. Maybe you can see it, I can't see it on mine. There's a very broad variety of topics, and I'm not going to read every single one of them, but we're engaged in topic areas of scholarship, from basic science to clinical sciences, to health services research, to psychosocial. There are people looking at meditation and complementary and alternative medicine for pain management. People are doing genetic studies. There's Parkinson's disease studies with older adults. There's balanced confidence. There's cancer and cognition and balance and falls. There's telehealth rehabilitation, which is very relevant, of course, in this time of COVID. And I do encourage you to explore our website, which Michaela Phillips put together, and I thank her for that. It's a wonderful website. So what have we accomplished to date? Well, many of you, I see many familiar faces, of course, in the audience, and many of you were at our initial symposium on January the 14th of this year, which was entitled Aging in Flint, Defining Current Concerns. And that really was the topic that we wanted to explore, is what are the current concerns of seniors and older adults living in the Flint region? We had about 80 participants, faculty, students, community partners, members of the community, researchers from all of the 3 research universities in Michigan, as well as researchers on the Flint campus, came together to talk about issues in aging, for want of a better way of putting it. We kicked off with a panel led by Donna Fry, Dean of College of Health Sciences, with community experts from the Valley Area on Aging, Agency on Aging, from McFarland Charitable Corporation, as well as from Burton Senior Center. They were engaged in a 1-hour discussion, which Donna Fry moderated, and they elaborated on the issues that seniors are facing as they age in our community. And then we broke out into 3 networking Zoom rooms, where we could take a deeper dive for about 30 minutes, if I recall correctly, into what each of the speakers had spoken about. And we finally finished off the session with an academic session, where we had 16 posters in 3 tracks. We and representatives from all of the, from the various schools and colleges, as well as from the community, and researchers outside of the University of Michigan Flint, presented on their research in physical functioning with aging. We had about 5 or 6 posters in each of these sessions. We had a track on mental health aging, and then we had a sort of an all-encompassing group, which we can think of miscellaneous topics. So we looked at biology and genetics as it relates to aging, aspects of nutrition as we age, some diseases such as COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and people presented on balance, confidence, and falls with aging. So that was a very successful session. Chancellor Dada was there, the Provost Sandra Price was there. We had the Vice President of the Gerontological Society of America was there. A former mentor of mine, Peter Lichtenberg at Wayne State, was also there, as were many community partners. We followed that up a couple of months later with an excellent presentation by Dr. Jennifer Blackwood of the Center of the College of Health Sciences, a physical therapy faculty member, on cancer, cognition, and physical functioning, where she spoke about her work together with students and faculty on issues related to aging and cognitive changes and chemotherapies and how that relates to physical functioning as we age. So that was a very, very good. We had about 30 or 40 people attend that. And just this last 2 weeks, we heard that Cheryl Groden, one of our faculty members in SEHS, received a grant from the Gerontological Society of America to float what we have termed the SPICE program. SPICE stands for Senior Programming Intergenerational College Experience Program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. So congratulations to Cheryl. Co-investigators on that are Dr. Jennifer Blackwood and myself. So what about the future? Well, we're continuing to develop seminars and think about symposium and seminar topics. We are already in discussions with an outside partner, Erica Thrash-Soul, to continue to talk about the housing issue. Affordable housing, safe housing in the region is really important. Other topics, we have a slew of other topics that we're debating on who to bring. We'll also have funding from Breyer to bring in a national speaker. So all of that will be coming down the pipe. Ken Sylvester and I, as well as the leadership of the Center on Aging, are talking about, we're talking with people in Ann Arbor about a health and retirement study training workshop. We literally are in serious email discussions with them. We provisionally have dates in June. And this will be open to all members of the academic community to come to this workshop. There will only be, unfortunately, around about 10 or 12 slots for the health and retirement study training. They want to keep it a small one. There'll also be a workshop on research design and statistics, which we will use Breyer funding to support that. And that we should be able to have anywhere from 30 to 40 to maybe to 50 people coming to a research design and statistics workshop. A request for proposals will go out, I'm hoping, as soon as this week. Once again, using Breyer funding for aging-focused research. We have some modest funds to fund some smaller research studies to utilize as seed funding. And then there's also funding from Breyer for community outreach engagement funds, where students and faculty can utilize it for service learning activities and for other community engagement activities, either as part of a class or just as part of a service project that they would like to engage in. And then, of course, there's the SPICE program, which is basically going to be really a 12-week online seminar student, older adult engaging in educational learning experience on a variety of topics. Some of the topics we're planning are health and wellness, culture and the arts, social sciences, finance, and other current events that are sort of in the news. And I'll stop there because I suspect I might be starting to run over my allotted 8 minutes, and I apologize.
Thank you.
So Heather, should I stop sharing then?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Alon. And I'm putting Alon's information in the chat. So anybody who is interested in what he was talking about is interested in joining or just simply talking to him about the funding available, please, you can get
Sure.
his email address right there in the chat. Okay, thank you, Alon. I appreciate that. Now I'm going to ask Ben Gatos to speak. Ben is an associate professor of design. He's currently the chair of the Art and Art History Department. He's collaborated with and worked in the community of Detroit and Flint on multiple projects. And he's leading up the Arts and Culture Research Cluster. Ben, thanks.
Thanks, Heather. Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Heather, Chancellor Dutta, and Ken for this opportunity. I'm chairing the Arts and Culture Research Cluster, and our goal, as was stated before, is to really bring together a lot of partners that have been doing really amazing work. Some of it including our faculty, but from our perspective, haven't really had the opportunity or embraced the opportunity to work together. You know, as was mentioned, we had the Flint Cultural Center, which houses some amazing institutions, the second largest art institute in Michigan, which our students utilize and our faculty utilize. But we're really looking at ways of trying to cross-pollinate both creatively and academically. And in addition, some of the anecdotes that I had heard from faculty over the years and that I have experienced myself is that, you know, of course, we don't always know what we're doing on the other side of campus, but we also, many faculty also don't know what we're doing on the other side of town. And so this is a real opportunity for faculty to get together and share our resources, but also share our connections with community partners. And that's already been happening in really exciting ways as we've talked through our shared interest in the cluster. And you can see the faculty, the 10 faculty that are thus far have been involved in our handful of meetings. I'm going to note this now so I don't forget, but I'll try to note it again later. Our next and final meeting for the year is on Wednesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, April 28th at 10 a.m. So feel free to reach out to me about getting involved if this sounds like something that you're interested in. Yeah, so we have 3 main initiatives. That's interdisciplinary dialogue, which I've talked a bit about already, and our impact through civic engagement. We really want to strengthen relationships with partners, like I said, like with the Flint Cultural Center, but also with smaller organizations that are really doing amazing work, like Factory 2, which is a makerspace in Carriagetown. It's walkable from campus, which is really a really exciting opportunity for our students to do work there. And then organizations like the Flint Public Art Project, which so many of our students and graduates have been involved in over the years. And then finally, some of our larger kind of long-term goals are to develop public programming and pursue larger grant opportunities, and even to think about developing community-based collaborative spaces. So for year 1 for us, we're kind of housing 3 initiatives in what we're calling the Flint Cultural Network. And so starting off during the summer and early part of next year, we're really going to be focusing on asset mapping and trying to understand the lay of the land. So the various institutions that I've talked about already, but really doing some deep digs into finding out what else exists on the cultural and creative communities within Flint. Prior to the pandemic, we had a really healthy Friday art walks once a month. Obviously, those have been limited because of COVID, but you know, we're looking at ways of even expanding outward from downtown and really understanding what else is happening on the ground. And part of that is through a research initiative that one of our faculty, Andy Deck, is focusing on. So building off of this asset map that we'll be researching over the next several months, Professor Deck is hoping to develop a networked calendar-based app so that people around Flint or regionally that are interested in finding out what's going on can have that information within their pocket, right? So that will help us kind of connect more, but also bring people into Flint. Let's see, back up here. Yeah, and to establish a domain like Flint Arts Network or flintculturalnetwork.com or something like that, a central resource that can connect what local galleries, local cultural institutions are doing, along with what we're doing academically here in Flint. Another kind of exciting initiative that one of the faculty members proposed, Dr. Henthorn, that we're really excited about is a residency program. And this has been something that we talked about with the FIA, using their resources, but also utilizing the university's resources, but kind of flipping it on our head, on its head a little bit. And instead of, awarding an academic or researcher from outside of the city this residency, but to really dig deep within the Flint community and find individuals that are at the starting part of their career and could use resources and studio space, access to the library, student researchers, to develop their own work and really kind of lay the groundwork for a career in research and or the arts. And that would culminate in a public performance or an exhibition if it's an artist, or lecture or artifact, whether it's a publication or a recording. Yeah. And then thirdly, we're focusing on programming and starting off with a lecture series, but again, trying to be active in reaching out to institutions. So perhaps holding it at Buckham Gallery or the FIA. They've definitely expressed interest in kind of sharing lectures and things like that. But also, exploring spaces like the Riverbank Park, the Civic Park, Centennial Pavilion, getting into those neighborhoods and bringing artists to those neighborhoods, but also artists who are in those neighborhoods, more kind of public exposure. And then through that, we're excited, another faculty member, Christian Gerstheimer, proposed a biennial. And so we're going to be exploring the idea of having every 2 years some sort of large cultural event, as you may have seen biennials grow in popularity throughout the US and abroad. And what would the feasibility of that in Flint look like? What kinds of themes would we focus on? And then developing partnerships and seek funding for those kind of larger experiences. But yeah, so thank you. Like I said, our next meeting is on the 28th. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will put my email in the chat if it's not there already.
I'm about to put it there, Ben.
Awesome.
Right,
Thank you, Heather.
just in case people need it for later, even though we have up on the screen. Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate that. So that was our arts and culture. Reach out to these cluster leaders if you're interested in joining or interested in the work that they do. The next research cluster leader is Toko Oshio. She's an assistant professor teaching and doing research in early childhood development. She's created a child care provider empowerment program, or PEP, in Flint. And she asked me to share the slides for her, so I'm pulling up your slides right now, Toko, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Heather and Ken and Chancellor Data. We've been working really hard to launch this research cluster. Our aim is we work really closely with Owen Institute of Racial, Economic, and Environmental Justice, run by Jen Farman and Tom Bell. We work closely with them. So our aim is to coalition building, remove barriers to success, and uncover the ways which hinders the justice in the community. So we really closely work with them. However, research cluster also have a narrow focus to do research in the project in the community. So if next slide, please. Thank you. Our goal is to tackle with those issues, the social issues in the community of Flint. To do that, we will examine those issues through the lens of racial, economic, and environmental justice. And this is going to be really engaged in community-based research in the project, not disconnected from the community, because we like to meet the needs of the community. And then to do so, we encourage the design of practical, social, and economic solutions that meet the community needs. Next slide, please. So all the discussion going, we picked those two approaches so far. And of course, you know, as you joined us, we like to expand those approaches. But so far, we like to focus on those two approaches. One is a human-centered design, and then also community-based participatory research, CBPR. Human-centered design has been used in business, product design, education, and the CBPR has been used in health, nursing, those areas. And together, we hope that we can take the perspective of the community. As I said many times, we are here to meet the needs of the community and doing the research to meet their needs. And then if we can do that, we are hoping to create an equitable partnership with community-based organization and the people in the community. Next slide, please. Thank you. In fall, we like to provide many series of presentation and a workshop related to the HCD and CBPR so that we can become familiar with these approaches. And then we like to set the RFP we like to have the call to select some of the research project ideas to do in the community. So for this RFP, we are not asking for research proposal, rather ideas so that our research cluster with Urban Institute can help provide expert consultation to enhance method and approaches to meet the needs of the community. And this summer, spring and summer, we work hard to get all those community partners to understand their needs and then understand the faculty expertise so that we are hoping that we can start bridging some of the connection between faculty and in the community, the people in the community. So next slide, please. So this is our website information, and I'm a co-lead, and then I'm co-leading with Carmen Stokes from nursing, and also Pam and Nate McLean from education. They are willing to join us as a member of the research cluster. So I am looking forward to hearing from all of you, and please contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Toko. Appreciate that. I'm going to put Toko's information in the chat for those that want to contact her directly and are interested in joining.
Thank you.
We have gotten a few questions so far, just to let everybody know. We'll do the questions after all the research cluster leaders have spoken, and we're happy to get to your questions for sure. We'll get to them. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to ask Greg to share his slides. He is the cluster leader for an urban sustainability and environmental health. Greg is an associate professor of geography and also director of the GIS program at UM-Flint, as well as a fellow at the Urban Design or Mental Health Institute in the UK. Greg, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen here. Hello, I'm assuming everybody can see this screen, this presentation. Thanks for everyone for inviting me to present on this cluster. I'm excited for expanding research at the University of Michigan-Flint. As Heather said, my name is Greg Rabarczyk, Associate Professor of Geography. I've been at UM-Flint since 2010, and I've been responsible for most of the GIS teachings, and my research is also focused on GIS as well. So I want to basically go through in terms of the cluster, the urban sustainability environmental health clusters, to talk about our purpose, our mission statement, who we are, and what we're good at doing, and what we'd like to do, and then talk about current and future activities, and then again open it up for questions or comments. So the purpose of this cluster, after working with Ken and Heather about how to define what we are and what we're going to do, we came up with a purpose statement to essentially bring researchers and practitioners, as well as community members and especially students, together to do research and think about research projects related to urban sustainability and environmental health, and think about how that might affect public health and environmental health outcomes. Our mission statement can be broken down into 4 specific ideas. One is to drive research among UM-Flint faculty and their domestic and international partners, become a hub for information exchange on critical urban and environmental health issues, and engage with those issues in relation to our partnerships. And then lastly, provide usable evidence by way of publications and grant-funded projects on the topics of environmental and urban health and environmental sustainability. So who we are, well, we're committed to rigorous and reliable research. We have about 15 members in this cluster so far, with expertise in planning, GIS, graphic design, public health, biochemistry, computer science, psychology, and sociology and biology. So we have a wealth of expertise in this cluster, which I think is fantastic. Our research record is pretty stout. We have collectively garnered over $4 million in external and internal grants. We have over 40 publications on the topics of urban and environmental health. Our members have presented over 30 times on these topics as well. We have a multitude of community partnerships already existing, ranging from the Crim Fitness Foundation to the Michigan DNR, Detroit Zoological Society, as well as international partnerships at the University of Northumbria, as well as the United States Geological Survey. And in terms of what we like to do and where we like to do it, in terms of research, the classic word cloud, I think, handedly demonstrates our research interests and our focus on Michigan, our focus on cities, our focus on Flint, as well as fisheries, conservation, data, Detroit, social justice, processing. So again, we have a wealth of experience to tackle critical urban and environmental health issues in this amongst our members. 3 projects that we have going on amongst our members right now include a urban food access project where we're going to investigate urban foraging behavior in the city of Detroit, which again speaks to food security issues, who has access, who doesn't have access to urban foraging food outlets. And this, of course, has public and neighborhood health implications. The second project going on amongst our members includes an environmental health and ecological assessment of the Flint River before and after the Hamilton Dam. They're going to measure fishery ecology, water quality, and how that affects community dynamics. The third project also deals with the Flint River, where our members are going to examine the toxicity of the Flint River and its influence on embryonic development in animals. And this, of course, has public health outcomes. In terms of future activities, first and foremost, we want to increase our presence on campus and in the region. And by doing so, we're going to think about how to increase our social media presence, We're going to plan for at least 4 research colloquiums during the 2021 and 2022 semesters. We're going to continue to build the cluster dream team, which is going to enlist new partnerships with community members, undergraduate students, graduate students, and new academic partnerships. Many of us are affiliated with University of Michigan and other universities. So we're going to hopefully increase our network affiliations with those universities by way of hosting and collaborating social events, research projects, and research-focused events with other universities. And in terms of enhancing research productivity amongst our members, we're going to continue to consult with Office of Research and Economic Development on grant opportunities and research outlets. We're going to support members' research by way of funding, publication costs, data, equipment needs, softwares, as well as data collection methodologies. We're going to think about how we can develop writing groups writing groups to focus on grant applications and research publications. Consider affiliated faculty positions within the cluster. Develop other tools on our website itself in terms of looking at how to facilitate our members' exposure by developing a tool to find a researcher perhaps, host member spotlight events, workshops, collaborate with students on podcasts, initiatives, and other faculty-driven initiatives during the upcoming academic year. Our website is live and it's quite spectacular, if I do say so myself. You can find out more there at the URL listed on this slide. And I will gladly take any questions or comments regarding how to become involved in this cluster going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate that. Of course, I'm going to put Greg's information in the chat in case you weren't able to grab it. And yeah, the research cluster websites are live on. You can get to them through the ORED website. So now we are going to take questions. A few came in while people were speaking, so we're going to go back to those in the chat and address those right now. So thank you to all the speakers today. Marilyn Filter had a question in regard to research support, and this was when you were talking, Chancellor. Does research support include matching funds for external grants?
Yes, absolutely. Research support will include matching funds as and when external agencies required, or even if it is internal. Sometimes internal grants also require some matching. We will make every effort to provide those grants. And as I said earlier, I work closely with Heather, with ORED, with Ken, and we'll see how best we can make it happen.
And she has a follow-up question, which is where do the innovations and technology research fall in that same category of matching funds being supported all around?
Yes, yes. And as I'm saying, as we get more into these areas, it's not to give anybody the impression that we have lots of funds lying around, but we do have funds that I'm repurposing. That's the main thing. They were being used or being held back for certain things. I am making an effort to repurpose those funds to foster new research, to nucleate new ideas and bring collaborations together.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. Toko, there's a question in the chat, and it refers to the racial, economic, and environmental justice cluster. Do you see that question? It's asking about approaching research maybe more broadly on social justice beyond issues of just racial, economic, and environmental justice. It says, for example, social justice or broadening population of community and marginalized populations like gender, disability, if at all. So for ideas, should we focus on issues of race and racial economics and environmental justice rather than social justice?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's a really good point. Right now, we really focus on this area with Urban Institute. However, of course, all the issue we do care about in the social justice. And also, I think that if that is a need in the community, of course, we like to tackle with. So right now, we try to focus, narrow down to in this area of justice, but of course, we are open to all ideas. Did I answer your question? I don't know. I tried.
I don't know, Eric, if you want to follow up on that, feel free to. Oh, it says, how did the two groups focusing on environment overlap and diverge? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So we have a cluster on urban sustainability and environmental health, right? And then we have the racial, economic, and environmental justice. Right now, we don't have members that are in common, but obviously, well, not obviously, but when Greg was talking, he was talking about some of the public health issues associated with some of the things the members of the urban sustainability environmental health cluster are sort of tackling. It's interesting, Ben happens to be a member of the racial, economic, and environmental justice cluster, as well as the leader of the arts and culture cluster. So there is some sort of cross-pollination going on there. But, you know, Eric, we'd really welcome you into that, that racial, economic, and environmental justice cluster if you're interested, I think. And I think there was another question too, somebody had, where do we fall within the 4 clusters, right? So if you don't see yourself in any of these clusters, I urge you to sort of reach out to me and Ken, and we can talk about collaboration possibilities across the campus and funding opportunities across the campus if you don't actually see yourself in these clusters. Yep, so the chancellor was answering a question from Marilyn. Okay, so other research programs will be supported, right? And we can try to seed fund areas of importance and hopefully add more clusters in the coming months. So he answered some of the question that I was trying to answer as well. So I appreciate that. And we welcome other people to put questions in the chat if they have them, or you're welcome to unmute yourself if you prefer to do it that way.
This is Marilyn. I would just like to thank you for this town hall today, because it has just been very interesting, you know, to inform us, you know, of the clusters, you know, that I didn't have a lot of knowledge of prior to that, you know, and I really appreciate your willingness to add clusters, you know, as we go along, because yes, I have some research that falls within a cluster, but then I have my major, you know, technology device that doesn't fall within any of these clusters. And so I would like to speak to adding a 5th cluster, you know, that will cover that area.
Okay, yeah, I think we should definitely talk, Marilyn. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. There was a question that came in that said many of our small and very small Flint-based nonprofit organizations have close ties to the community, but are woefully in need of funding, management help, outreach efforts. Where does this fit within the clusters? I know, just speaking for the racial, economic, and environmental justice cluster, I know they're looking into some of these community organizations to help them, bring them together with faculty to think about what their needs are, and also to work with them instead of just researching them, right? I don't know if you have more to add to that, Toko.
So I've been doing through my project. So when I work with some of the community organization, and then when they have in those need, I help them write the grants together. Sometimes we do, I do, our project do. So I'm hoping that our research cluster can help utilizing your expertise to do so. But that's one of the that's a great thing that we need to think about. So I really appreciate those ideas. And if you need to talk, if you want to talk more, please contact me. I'm happy to.
Yeah, and the other research clusters may have something to add there. But maybe we contact you directly, Michael. So we have your name and I can get feedback from the other research cluster leaders about any feedback they might have in that regard. But because we are out of time, we're going to end this town hall for now, but I appreciate if people would reach out to us at ORED or to the research cluster leaders themselves if they have interest. And thank you very much. Thanks to everybody.